Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Paul Ryan, and today I want to talk to you about why Alex Hormozi may be dead wrong. Now, let me state from the get-go that this is not a beat up on Alex Hormozi. He is both a very successful entrepreneur and he produces a huge amount of very high quality free content, giving a huge amount of value on YouTube and other platforms. And that's why he has an enormous following. So I'm not about to beat up on Alex Hormozi. But what I do want to do is give you a slightly different perspective. You see, there's a possibility that what is right for Alex Hormozi may not be right for you. And I just want to give you a slightly different perspective so you can decide for yourself, or at least filter some of the information and make sure it's right for you. And my different perspective is I reckon I'm about 25 years older than Hormozi is. So Hormozi is in his mid to late 30s and I'm close to my 60s. And there's a big life difference there and a lot of life experience, a lot of things that Alex Hormozi has not yet experienced yet, a lot of things that he may experience in the next 20 or 30 years that may make him look back and wonder about some of the advice he was giving. So Hormozi openly states that he is a workaholic. He has no hobbies. He has no other interests. He just works and works and works. And when he's no longer being effective, he rests, he goes watch Netflix or something, and then he works out and he works again. And his life is pretty much all about work. I suppose it's probably fortunate that his wife is also engaged in their business. So that gives them common ground. At least he's not focused on something that his wife has no interest or engagement in. So I think that's a really important thing. But he openly states he's a workaholic. I've also heard him say that he doesn't particularly like people saying that he should have a better work-life balance. And he goes, well, I basically do what I want to all of the time. I mean, I love that statement because that's exactly how I live my life. I also have the freedom to choose how I spend my days, how I spend my hours, how I spend my time. And that's exactly what I choose to do, whether I'm working or whether I'm not working. I live each day with the freedom to do exactly what I want to do. And that's what Hormozi says he does. And I think that's a very, very positive sign if he's getting to do what he wants to do most of the time. But just because you're getting to do what you want to do most of the time when you're in your 20s or in your 30s doesn't mean that you will look back when you're in your 50s or 60 and go, that was time well spent. I have worked with a lot of 7 and 8 figure business owners over the years, and two things stand out. Firstly is when you're starting a business, and probably in the first 3 to 5 years, you've got to do exactly what Hormozi says. You have to work, work, work. It has to be your obsession. If you're taking a business from nothing and you want to build a successful, sustainable business, it requires a huge amount of hard work. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you know I often talk about the fact that 95% of startups fails. 95% of all new businesses fail. In 10 years' time, only 0.5% of those businesses will still be in business with a turnover in excess of 10 million euro. So Hormozi's business is well into the 9 figures at this stage, and I have an 8-figure business. So if you want to take a business from nothing into an 8-figure, 9-figure business, you are going to have to put the work in because the odds of you getting there are something like about 0.5%. You will end up in that 8 or 9-figure bracket. So don't think that can be achieved without a lot of hard work. And that means you will really have to be focused on the business for many years. So most of the 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs that I know, in the early days, they worked really, really hard. And I love to talk about work-life balance. I feel it's really important, but it's very hard, almost impossible to have work-life balance in those early years. And that's probably in the first 3 to 5 years. But the second thing I see commonly among all of these entrepreneurs is when they got to the stage where they probably could have scaled their business differently, when they probably could have pulled back a little bit, they just kept on working because they had developed habit. That's what they did. They just worked, worked, worked. They had excluded so many other things from their life. They had become so ambitious They become so fueled by this desire to grow, 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 build, 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 that they just were on this treadmill and they just kept going and going and going. There was a Harvard study done some time ago, and they were pursuing this very point of when is it enough? When have you built a business? When have you built enough wealth? And they asked people with 1 million, with 2 million, with 3 million, with 5 million, with 10 million. So they asked a selection of wealthy people, when will you have enough? And they all gave the exact same answer. And the answer was double. I need to double what I have. So the entrepreneurs who had 1 million said I would need to have 2 million. Those with 2 million said I would need to have 4 million. And those with 10 million said I would need to have 20 million. And this is why we keep on pushing, we keep on growing, because there is never enough. Because what you're chasing is not going to make you fulfilled. It will only fulfill part of your ambition, part of your life. And that's the reason why so many entrepreneurs, they are on this treadmill and they just keep going and going and going. And they always think the next point will be enough. When I get to 1 million, when I get to 5 million, when I get to 10 million, when I get to 20 million, when I get to 100 million, they always think around the next corner is satisfaction, but it just never is. So what I've found commonly among 7 and 8 figure CEOs is they've done the decades of work, they've built a business, and now they're beginning to feel worn out, sometimes even burnt out, and they're beginning to realize that they have lost some of their life, that something is missing. They have grown a business, they have grown wealth, but they've missed so much. If you're someone who has built a business and you've been in that business for 5 to 10 years, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're a new stage entrepreneur, you're probably going, what is he talking about? I just want to build and build and build. And that attitude to build and build and build, of course, is great in the early stages, but eventually it becomes counterproductive. Now, I've studied some of the most successful people in the world, some of the billionaires, and I'm talking Warren Buffett, I'm talking Elon Musk, I'm talking Jeff Bezos, I'm talking Steve Jobs, I'm talking Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban. All of these people have one thing in common. They all have regrets of being so obsessed with their business that they damaged or destroyed their family lives and their personal relationships. And Warren Buffett, who I would see as a very balanced human being, said if he could change one thing, that one thing is that he would have spent more time with the people he loved. Mark Cuban, very successful man, billionaire, was interviewed recently, and in the interview, when he was asked about the continued growth of his business, his answer was, I need to get to know my 3 children. I want to make sure I have a very close relationship with my 3 children. That's what's most important to me. And I want to make sure I'm there for and I know my grandchildren. And I think he's really fortunate to have had that realization that the most important thing in his life is his family. And no matter how much of a business he builds, if he loses that connection with the people he loves, if he doesn't spend time with them, he will get to the end of his days and feel like he has achieved nothing. And that's pretty much what Steve Jobs said on his deathbed. And I always ask people this question: when you're lying on your deathbed, what do you think your regrets will be? Will it be that you didn't grow a bigger business? Or will it be that you didn't spend more time with the people you love? I know for me, the most important thing in my life is to spend time with my family. And I have 3 adult sons. And the time you spend with them when they're very young builds a relationship. And I think I have a very good and close relationship with my sons as adults. And hopefully I will have a relationship with them as they grow older and they grow their own families. But that relationship is started when they're very young. And if you don't spend the time with them, it's lost. The opportunity is lost. It can't be gained. So this is not saying don't go build a business. This is not saying don't become an entrepreneur. Don't grow your business. Don't work as hard as you can. It's not saying that at all, because I'm an entrepreneur. I wanted to grow a business. I wanted to become wealthy. I wanted the freedom that came with that. But in pursuing those things, there's a danger that you might lose what is actually the most important thing in life. I was very, very lucky that this lesson was brought home to me about 25 years ago. So I came home from work late one evening, busy as I always was, my head filled with business, with everything that's going on. So when I came home, my wife started telling me about a holiday she was planning. The kids had some time off, so her question was, what did my diary look like? I opened my diary. Most of the week was free, except for one meeting, one crucial meeting. I had to be there for that meeting, and I knew it was so important to the business that I couldn't miss that meeting. So with great reluctance, I had to tell my wife I couldn't go on the family holiday. Obviously, I was very disappointed. My wife was very disappointed and annoyed. My kids were devastated. We didn't go on the family holiday. I attended the meeting, but I learned a valuable lesson. So the following September, when the kids went back to school, their school diaries came out showing exactly how the year was laid out. I took the kids' school calendar, I laid it beside mine, and I noted every holiday they had off, every school concert, every school sports event. I noted every event that I wanted to attend, and I marked them all as priority in my diary. Now, that didn't mean that I started taking all the holidays that my kids had. It just meant that I prioritized those days. So when someone asked me if I was available for a meeting or if I was putting something in my diary, I first looked at my diary to see if there was something the kids had on. So if it was a Christmas school play, a really important sports event, I simply said, I'm not available that day. I have another meeting or I'm out of country. I just gave some reason to basically say my diary is full on that day. And really what it did is it just shifted my diary. It meant that I always had time for my family. Didn't mean that I didn't work very hard. It didn't mean that I built a business. It just meant that I was there for my kids and I made time to drop them to school. I made time to collect them. I made sure that when I came home, I was present for my family. As I say, my three sons are now adults and I have a very happy marriage that has lasted 35 years. And you don't get a marriage that lasts that long, and you don't get great relationships with your kids as they grow up if you don't invest time in it. I'm not suggesting that you don't have great work ethic, and I'm not for a moment pretending that you can build a business without a lot of hard work. But what I am saying to you is think of what's really important to you in your life. And it's probably your family, your health, your well-being. These things are so precious. And when you damage them, there's no going back. Well, there's often no going back. So make sure you take a balanced approach to your life and make sure you realize that you have to take care of these things also. That the fact that I worked hard for so many years has really served my family well. Obviously, they've lived very well and it has worked very well for my family. But if I'd done that exclusively and not given the time to my family, I would now be a lonely man. I may have built a business, I may have money, but maybe I wouldn't have the relationship with my wife. Maybe I wouldn't have the relationship with my kid. Maybe I wouldn't be blessed with the good health I have because I took care of my health, my mental well-being and my physical well-being. So all of these things have got to be taken care of. Take my warning from the people I know, from these 7, 8 figure business owners I know, that you need to find that balance and you need to find it sooner rather than later. Take a warning from those billionaires that I've mentioned, those really successful people, the real achievers and A players in our world, who all say they wish they'd given more time to the people they love. And think, when you're on your deathbed, what will you wish? Will you wish you'd built your business or will you wish you'd taken care of your family? I think I'll be pleased that I built a good business so I was able to financially take care of my family and give myself the life I wanted to live and give my family the life they wanted to live. But I think I am going to be more than happy that I devoted so much of my time to the people that matter to me. So by all means, go and study Alex Hormozi. He has some wonderful lessons to teach the entrepreneur, but make sure you decide what's really important to you. And so while you work really hard, make sure you're prioritizing all of the important things in your life, not just your business. This is the Inner Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Paul Ryan. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate it. If you like the show, please do comment, like, subscribe, and share. It really helps. Until next time, take care.